Good morning. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining me. So I'm going to start the practice this morning by reading a poem that I read in the last class, a poem by David Whyte, but it's just such a beautiful poem for encompassing so many aspects of what's happening now for us, what we're invited to do now. This process that is part of this cycle of life, and particularly seen and honoured within our Celtic system of tuning in, of turning in, of moving into the darkness, and what that then affords us. And this poem is entitled Sweet Darkness. When your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the darkness, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. Time to go into the darkness, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your home tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. You must learn one thing. You must learn one thing. This world was made to be free in. You must learn one thing. All of us must learn one thing. This world was made to be free in. Give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. Give up all the other worlds, all the other distractions, except the ones to which you belong to. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. So the path of the yogi has often been defined as this journey inward in order to then make a journey out into the world. This is what happens through this cycle of life, this cycle of our year, in which this point is the light begins to diminish and it invites us then to turn inward. It's the idea of coming in and lighting the fire and having that time, that internal time, coming inside. As we prepare for what will then become a birth again, will become spring, will become that movement out into the world, out into the exterior experience. And it's always looked for this quality of balance, that we need to have this journey inward. And this is the beautiful wisdom of this Celtic system and so many older traditions. In our modern tradition, our modern world, there's an overt focus on the exterior. So much of it is about the exterior, not so much about honouring. And, we see all kinds of issues arise because of that, in terms of mental health, in terms of health issues, physical health issues. Even the rates of suicide that we see, a lot of these have to do with not being taught and instructed in ways in which we are designed and meant to live our lives, to take this time. And then we get into a vicious cycle of avoiding the inner space because of a lot of the unprocessed grief that we hold in those places, the suffering or the pain or the wounding that we haven't addressed and on some level are aware of, and because it's uncomfortable we avoid it. And we get into then a cycle of activity that maintains that avoidance, and really a lot of that avoidance is what creates suffering in our lives and disease in our lives and suffering in our and pain in our lives. So the practice really, and this time of the year, is this invitation to turn inward, to move into the darkness, to befriend the darkness. And the idea that the darkness then has something to offer us. So within traditions like Buddhism, they talk about the idea of emptiness. that this is our essential nature, is one of emptiness. And it's the idea then that form, our experience in the world, of the external world, of what we see and what's manifest in the world, comes from that darkness. That darkness, in a sense, has the potential for all form to arise from it. And it's then we're getting into this idea of how we, or what we want to create in our lives, how we want to manifest in our lives. But what we're doing in order to begin to awaken to, or align to, or experience, or play with these ideas, is we're creating boundaries. We're creating structures. So our practice, in a sense, is a structure. Like we create ways through form in which we get into the formless. We get into that unseen quality within us. And really, in terms of our deepest sense of contentment, our deepest sense of I am full, I'm complete, that resides not in us going out into the world and achieving things or gaining things or acquiring things. Actually, that's a journey in the opposite direction. It's a journey inward. Because when we go inward, sure, we may meet our grief, we may meet our sorrow, we may meet our wounding, we may meet uncomfortable places that we're carrying around. But the journey doesn't stop there. It brings us deeper. We're learning how we get to move through these places so we can shed layers, clear the path, and clear the path, and clear the path. And then the idea is that the ground of being, the deepest space within us, is a place that is absolutely full, is a place that is deeply, deeply, deeply content, is a place that longs for nothing except what we are. And that's what we're invited to experience and learn to. And even if you think about Corona and all of the stuff that's going on, and we're in lockdown here in Ireland, there's all these different ways of viewing it, but one possibility is that there is an invitation in all of this to begin to do this work. Step by step, inch by inch. We don't have to rush, we don't have to force. We can go easily, slowly, and safely. So we can, develop our capacity to meet what we need to meet. And look, I think the truth is, whether you're in touch with it or not, all of us as human beings, one of the intrinsic components of being a human being is a deep grief. We're born and we die, and somewhere inside of us we hold that devastation. And yet many of us, particularly in the West, spend so much time avoiding that place. And really, it's the place that we're deeply, deeply invited to move into, to become aware of, to feel into, to know. And actually, as we begin to know that, we break through our understanding of ourselves and of the world to something richer, something much more profound, something much deeper. So that's the invitation of our practice, in a nutshell. I invite you to take a comfortable seat. Sit on a supported seat if you're down on the floor. Equally, if you're sitting in a chair, sit upright. Hold yourself. Another boundary that we're working with is the idea of the form of our body, that there is a deep order to our body. The way in which all the parts connect and align can either maintain that idea of protection, locking, disconnecting, or again do the opposite, in which the body aligns in such a way that there is more internal movement, there's more fluidness, and there's more freedom. So we're going to play with how we begin to align very quietly and simply in our practice today, but how we align the body in ways that support the body doing what it's designed to do, which is experience freedom. Body's not designed to carry around grief, to carry around stuff, and to let it stagnate. It's designed to feel it, to move through it, to process it, and ultimately to release it. So that's the direction we're going in. So we sit and we'll close our eyes. Let your belly soften. Let your belly soften. And let the awareness, the attention move to your breath. Come close to your breath. Notice your breath. And if you can, I want you to breathe through your nose. If not, that's fine. But if you can, breathe through your nose. And very comfortably, without forcing or straining in any way, deepen your breath. So you reach this deep, filling of the lungs, but a comfortable, not that you're forcing or straining, but just comfortably expanding the lungs. And then equally, can the exhalation have that length and evenness to it, where it's not being pushed out at the beginning and then pittering away at the end? Can all of the breath, from the beginning of the inhale to the end of the exhale, can it have a continuity to it, where it's one cycle that is even and steady? And we continue, inhale, exhale, these longer, deeper breaths, and just watch, observe. So you're witnessing the breath and you're developing that particular muscle, if you will, that awareness muscle. And lots of other things might be going on for you as you're doing this. You might have feelings in the body, sensations in the body, thoughts, whatever it is that's there. There may be sounds around you. All of that's perfect. We don't need to fight any of that. We don't need to push it away. It's there. It's what's happening in the moment. It's perfect. Just stay close to your breath. Stay close to your breath. If you notice any tension in the body that you could soften or release as you continue to breathe, please do that. Long, deep, steady breath. Long, deep, steady breath. That's it, stay with your breath. So whatever comes up for you, as we're doing these practices that are about moving in, that are about meeting what's in there, quite often what we will meet first is distraction, are the ways in which we kind of block. So it's uncomfortable. Initially, it's usually uncomfortable. All of this work, the first kind of bits you meet are the discomfort, the parts that just don't want to do it, the resistance. Just stay with the breath. Stay with the breath. And these are the boundaries that we're creating that will ultimately support freedom. Think of it like a river. If the boundaries, the sides are too tight, the water can't get through. If there's no sides to the river, the water just dissipates. But if we get it right, it allows a beautiful flow of water. This is what we're doing. We don't want to be rigid, we don't want to force, but we want to create boundaries that are supporting us in this moment. Our unfolding, our journey, our deepening, our connection to that sense of authenticity within ourselves. Stay with your breath. We're nearly there. Just one more minute. for the last few rounds of this longer breath, can you really make sure, particularly at the end of the exhalation, that you're squeezing every drop of air out and you feel that tightening around the diaphragm? Notice the movement happening around the body as you're taking these longer, deeper breaths. Notice the ribs and the shoulders, how the body moves. And these deeper breaths encourage a more balanced movement of particularly the torso, the rib cage expanding more evenly on all sides, that floating upward of the shoulders as the ribs expand. And we're designed to be doing more of this more of the time. Again, in the West, our relationship with breath is let's say we have a lot to learn. Stay with the breath. Last few. And then after this long exhalation, come back to your natural breath, come back to the normal breath. But of course, the beautiful thing that is occurring at the moment is that we are learning about it, that there's a resurgence of this ancient practice of breathing, and how breathing can really support our health, our well-being, our physiology, our connection to spirit, our connection to the deeper aspects of our life that, again, in the West, we have somehow developed a rockier relationship to. Okay, so we're all sitting on the mat if possible. Again, if that doesn't work, sit in the chair, but sit forward in the chair so you're not leaning on it. We're going to take our hands on to our ribs. And as you hold the ribs, I want you to continue to take some deeper breaths. But now let the hands give you information so you can feel the movement underneath the hands. And we want the idea that the movement is really even. So the back and the front and the sides. This is why we keep the fingers at the front and the thumbs at the back of the ribs. Now we're on the lower ribs. We're not below them on the waist. We're actually on the ribs. And what I would say is that you've got to put more attention on the back of the ribs, because they will be the weakest part of the movement. So they require a little bit more effort in order to create a balanced movement. So stay with that. Even the idea of squeezing in a little with the hands so the ribs have a little bit more work to expand out and to open up. So again, you're just strengthening the muscles between the ribs, waking them up. And then as you manage to get the ribs a little fuller, lift one side up, lift the other side up. Just waddle the rib cage away from the floor, away from the hips. And a lot of the space that we move into with our bodies or begin to access through the practice is space that we're designed to be in more of the time with our body. The space that again allows us to experience more freedom in our bodies. But again, what we will tend to experience first is the contraction, is the tightness that we're holding in the tissue of the body. So as you meet it, you just breathe, filling the ribs up. There's almost a kind of a sense of buoyancy, or even a sense of dignity as you lift up, as you move into that kind of fuller position. Okay, so we're holding the ribs, we're filling the ribs, we're lifting the ribs. Now we're going to arc over to the left. And as you arc over, of course, you're going to get more length from the right side. You might notice the weight drops over to the left side. I want you to see, can you bring the weight evenly on the two sides of the hips? Might mean you go a little less, might mean you lean over to the right a little. Breathe into that tightness. And then just put the left hand down on the floor. If the floor is too far away, you can be up on the fingertips. And you can push the left hand down so that right side gets more of a stretch, and breathing into wherever you're noticing the tension. Long, deep breaths. Notice where your head is. For many of us, it'll want to go first. That again is another misalignment that the Western body gets into. The head kind of leads the way. What we're evolving into is a repositioning in which the heart gets to lead the way. But that requires us accessing a deeper level of trust, and this then is this work we're doing with our nervous system. Moving from our sympathetic, fear-based, protective mechanism of the nervous system to the parasympathetic, which is the trusting side of it. Come on back through center, hold the two sides of the ribs, fill the ribs again, lift the ribs, let's arc over in the other direction. Now you only need to go as far as you feel comfortable going, and part of that is to meet some discomfort along the way, not to force or strain, and then we'll put that right hand down on the floor and you breathe into what you're meeting. Again, notice the position in the head. If the head has gone off and done its own thing, bring it back. Perfect. And then come on back through center and release the two arms. Okay. Close the eyes for a moment. Just notice the breath. If you were to take those comfortably deeper breaths again and let the attention just focus around the sides of the ribs, around where you've felt the stretch happening through the last couple of poses. Just tune into that space. Deep, long, comfortable breath. Perfect. And let's open the eyes. Beautiful. Okay. So we're going to just check out the spine, see where we're at. Take one hand to the lower back and see, can you feel the vertebrae of the spine? Now, notice what's happening either side of the vertebrae. If it feels different on the two sides, if you notice the vertebrae protruding, if you notice them protruding unevenly, just to notice what's there. And what we're moving toward, or what we're trying to develop, is a sense of an arch in that space, and a sense of the vertebrae, the spine, being held by the muscle. So it's a kind of a valley, a feeling like a valley for the spine. And we can use the legs and the hips, realign them to support that, okay? So if we lean over to, let's say I lean over on my right side so I can access my left leg, I take one hand to the inner thigh and one hand, I try to scoop it underneath the glute. Now I'm going to engage the leg underneath the hand, squeeze the muscle, twist the inner thigh down and pull the buttock upward. Twist the inner thigh down, pull the buttock up, and then release that leg down. And for a moment you could feel the difference in the two sides. And then we'll go to the second side, hold the inner thigh, hold the glute, engage, twist the inner thigh down, pull the buttock up, and then release. Okay. Now, just with that, take the hand back, just feel, notice if there's any sense of difference. Might be a little bit different. Okay, one more thing. This time, if we lean on the left side, right hand underneath the right glute, this time I want you to take the hand from behind, go under the glute and scoop the flesh of the buttock backwards as if you were trying to literally pull it up your back. And do the same with the other side. Grab the butt and scoop the flesh upward and then release. So you'll notice maybe it feels a little tighter in the lower back, but it's arching a little bit more deeply. And then we go back and you might feel the muscle on the vertebrae is working a little bit more evenly. And check it out with the two hands. Notice if you feel a difference with the two hands. The tendency is when you take one arm back, that side might get a little weaker. Or you might notice there is a difference in the two sides. So a lot of this will tell us stories about how our body's working, how things need to be supported. And for each of us, it's going to be a little different. But there are a lot of generalities in terms of what will tend to happen. Within a Western body, within different cultures, the body will work in different ways because it'll hold different programs and different stories, different value systems. And the body maintains it and switches on parts and switches off parts and overworks parts and underworks parts. And our practice is a process of unraveling and beginning to understand and see these processes at work and release and shed what we don't need to hold on to. So, there's the idea of what we do through our practices of creating boundaries that support us. But of course, there are unconscious boundaries we carry that really don't support us. They're about fitting into a particular box. They're about looking a particular way. They're about shoulds and shouldn'ts. And a lot of us, particularly as we do this work, will begin to see those let's say, those uncomfortable boundaries a little bit more easily. they'll kind of come up to be seen in this process of clearing ourselves out. And this just happens naturally because, again, our bodies, our lives are designed to experience freedom, and whatever gets in the way, if we support it in beginning to shift and move, we get revelation, we get understanding. But of course, so often the inclination and the tendency, particularly the idea of the sympathetic protective part of the nervous system, is to dampen down, to maintain the status quo, not to ruffle feathers, not to change. So then we get sick. So this is our game. Okay, take the hands to the ribs again. Big deep breath into the hands, into the ribs, lift them up again. Belly long, notice the length in the belly. Even though you're lifting the belly up, drop it down, let it relax. So you're manually stretching it, but the belly itself is softening and dropping down. And let's arc to one side, doesn't matter whichever side. Where the tension is, you breathe into that tightness. Deep breath as you come back through center, fill it up. When you're ready, go to the second side. Keep breathing into what you're meeting. Perfect, let's come back, wait for the breath, fill it up again. We'll go over to the first side again. Hand can come to the floor this time. So you can push the earth away to stabilize the hips, to bring weight balanced through the pelvis. Breathe into wherever the tension is. And maybe the tension's through that extended side, but maybe you'll notice in the contracted side it gets tight. Our inclination or the tendency, particularly if we're dominated primarily by the sympathetic nervous system, most of our bodies are, most of the time, the mechanics of that are the tissue, the muscle knows or uses the process of contraction much more than it does expansion. And really what we're interested in is a balance of the two, and that really will create health in our bodies. In the organs, in the movement of blood, things are designed to move in a way in which contraction and expansion happen evenly. Perfect, we'll come back through center, two hands on the ribs, fill and lift the ribs again. We'll go the other direction, put a hand to the earth. Breathe into what you're meeting. Perfect. And then we'll come back through center. And again, just rest the hands on the thighs, close the eyes. Notice the breath. And as you take some of those deeper breaths, can you notice that there's more lightness as you breathe? And of course we notice it because we weren't accessing it before. But the idea is, in Sanskrit they say nish prapanchaya, that which was never absent. The lightness is in there, it's just covered up by a denseness, a heaviness that we take on, a suit or a cloak that we put on and cover ourselves with, but our essential nature is one of lightness. Again, this idea of freedom, lightness, buoyancy, ease. We are here to be free. So just know to stay with the breath for a few more rounds. Perfect, you got it. Okay, so open the eyes. Let's come on to our backs. Keep your knees bent. Just settle yourself, get comfortable. Feet are more or less hip distance apart. And from the tips of the toes, from the part of you that is connected to the floor, I want you to go from the feet right up through all the way to the back of the head and just feel the parts that are actually touching the floor. Like the bum, what about the back? What parts are on the floor, off the floor? Okay, now we did this last week too, but if you were to spread your toes, grip with your feet. Now, we're not going to move the feet. Please don't move them or slide them. Keep them where they are, but pull them towards your hips, pressing your bum down, and you'll notice the arch in the lower back gets deeper. It's a tilting of the pelvis. We created or moved in that direction when we were scooping the flesh of the buttocks in our seated position. Now, keeping that, the arch in the back lifts up, you get a sense of the belly, gets a bit of a lengthening. All of these are great repositions for creating space around the intestines, diaphragm. Equally, the arch of the lower back supports the psoas, which is a huge and hugely important muscle in terms of movement for the body. Connects the top and the bottom of the body together. But what you might also notice is an overworking in the lower back or a soreness. Now, you can back off a little if that's there. So you're looking at how you engage, the finesse of engaging muscle. It doesn't have to be full on, all on. You can play with it in degrees. Look for what works for you in this moment. And you're training these parts of the body how to maintain an alignment that again will promote freedom, will support it. Not only freedom, but also strength, but in a way that's balanced. And when our body is dominated by the sympathetic nervous system, the cost of strength, which is just moving our body, picking something up, doing what the body's designed to do, the cost of that is a density and a contraction and a stuckness. So we refer to it as the old masculine approach. It's the kind of toxic masculine in us. We all have aspects of that, that old rigidness. What we're interested in moving toward is the idea of freedom, movement, and strength, stability, balancing. Masculine, feminine, working together as a team. It's a new paradigm for us, for our bodies, but for our lives and for our world. Press the bum down. Okay, now keeping the arch in the back, could you lift your feet off the floor and bring your shins to horizontal, but don't lose the arch in the back? And could you also press the back of the head down as you tilt your chin away from your chest so you get to the point where you feel the front of your throat is long? Soften your forehead. Just maintain this. So the butt and the head are the heavy bits, actively pushing the earth away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we let everything relax. Nice work. Okay. In terms of the neck, we tend to have a chronically misaligned neck. Again, it's a predicament of the Western nervous system and the way in which it aligns our body. And again, the general idea is that the head goes first. Obviously, that's amplified by the use of phones, computers, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's look at realigning. Take one hand, hold the back of the neck, cup the back of the neck. Take the other hand, cup the front of the throat. Okay, and then just palpate, have a little feel. Notice where it's loose, notice where it's tight. Usually around the side, the base side of the neck, a lot of tightness. You'll notice a lot of kind of, let's say, disengagement around the spine, the cervical spine. And then just gently cup the neck, one hand back, one hand front. Okay, first thing I want you to do is press the back of the head down, notice what changes in the back of the neck. Okay, so it just engages the back of the neck. Keeping that, again, just tilt your chin slightly away from the chest. So if you have the back of the neck will arch a little bit more deeply and the front of the throat will lengthen. And this is exactly the same mechanics as your lower back and your belly. It's the same curve. It's a reflection of it. Same curve. Pressing the back of the head down. Could you bring the elbows a little closer so they're pointing upward? That broadens the back. Could you press the back of the head down so much that you actually get lighter in your shoulders or even lift your shoulders off the floor? See if that's available. 5, soften your face. You got this. 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it all relax. Okay. We'll just change the position of the hands. Just change it. Swap them over. Just take a few breaths without working. Really building strength for our necks, the cylinder of our neck, not just one part of it. For most of us, when the head juts forward too far, it overworks the front of the neck, tightening it, and it disengages and weakens around the cervical spine. So, and that has all kinds of implications in terms of the communication between the head and the heart. So a lot of the wisdom lies in the body, heart, intestines, gut. And the head is more a machine for solving, working out problems, analysing. It's the brain, it's the computer. But if it doesn't have the operating system connected to it properly, then it doesn't work properly. And it gets us into all kinds of trouble when it's off on its own trying to work stuff out. Because the brain really doesn't feel stuff. The body feels, and that feel information then is analysed by the brain. So we're realigning it all. Press the back of the head down, notice the engaging of the back of the neck, slowly tilt the chin away from the chest, so the front of the throat is open. Bring the elbows in toward each other. Point the elbows or stretch the elbows toward the sky, so that helps the back lift a little. Just stay with this. Just breathe here. You breathe for 3 or 4 breaths, you breathe for 5 or 6 breaths, whatever feels available. Stay with it. So you want to go incrementally. Like, this is work and alignment the neck is not used to for most of us. Don't force it. Let it all come down. Okay, so if we do the whole body now, from the feet engaging, again, this is what we call the toes digging down, pulling toward your hips, the bum pressing down, the arch of the lower back is there. Sustain that, lifting the feet, shins to horizontal again. Now, in midair, could you imagine the feet are on a wall, and without moving, you're pulling the feet down the wall. And you're trying to sustain that. Not that it's going to burn you out. Obviously, it is effortful, but not too difficult. Press the back of the head down. Soften the face. You got this. Curl the chin away from the chest. Pull the elbows in toward each other. Press the elbows toward the sky. So it's just, if you can, your bum and your head on the floor. If your shoulders are down still and that's enough, perfect. Now breathe into the sides of the ribs, all those places you're breathing into before. Breathe 5. Front of the throat open, forehead relaxed. 4, 3, 2, 1, and then let it all drop and soften. And of course, when we're chronically misaligned in the body, what the body will do as a response or a reaction is tighten. Jaw issues, shoulder issues, back issues. They're all a result of the slightest misalignments. And these misalignments, in one sense, the body can get on with it, it can do its job, but places will wear out. A lot of people might get away with that, with just some discomfort. Other people, things will give. Okay, so 2 arms straight up to the sky. When you look up at the arms, let's take the hands wider than the shoulders. I want you to make sometimes we call it a cupcake shape with the hands. The hands are shaped like a cup, and the fingers and thumbs are actively pushing upward, pushing toward the ceiling. Now, breathe into the sides of the ribs as before. The idea of what does it feel like when it's wide. Grip with the toes, adding all these bits together. Pull the feet toward you. Press the bum down. Feel that tilting in the sacrum and the lower back. Lift the feet. Remember that idea of pretending there's a wall, pulling the feet down the wall. Press the head into the floor. Tilt the chin away from the chest. Open the throat. Breathe into the ribs. Now keep extending actively through the arms. The arms are wide. They're going into a V shape. Take them halfway toward the floor. Halfway toward the floor. Over your head. Now breathe. Throat open. Forehead relaxed. You got this. Have a little waddle in the pelvis. You got this. Throat open for 5. Just the bum and the head on the floor. 4. Deep breath into the ribs for 3. And 2. And 1. And beautiful. All comes down. All releases. All releases. So we're maintaining the curvature, the healthy curvature of the spine. We're activating the tissue around it. And all of that tissue, when it activates in those type of positions, because if you think of all the muscle has contours, so when it's aligned in the contour it's designed to be in, it'll engage in a way that's much more balanced. And in that engagement, that balanced use, it'll also release residual tension it's been holding on to. Okay. Take your time. Let's try this again. Take the 2 arms straight up. Open the hands wider than the shoulders, just a little bit. Fingers, hands in that cup shape. Before you actively stretch up, Breathe and widen the ribs. As you feel the ribs widen, that widens the shoulders, then stretch up through the fingers. Now, the feet, toes engage, you pull the feet towards you, press the butt down, you notice that repositioning in the hips. Some of you will notice as the hips reposition, the chin wants to go closer to the chest. It's really interesting the way the body works in these ways. Feet on that wall, dig and drag, pull the feet down toward the floor without moving. Press the head down, slowly tilt the chin away from the chest, opening the throat, slowly extend the arms halfway toward the floor. Keep breathing, you got this, belly long for 5, for 4, for 3, 2, 1, and then let it all go again. Just be still as quick as you can. Just breathe. Perfect. Okay. 2 knees are bent. We're going to cross left ankle over right thigh. Left ankle over right thigh. Now we want to maintain that position we were working with the pelvis and the arch in the lower back. So, foot on the floor primarily, grips without moving, pull it towards you, press the bum down, feel the arch in the lower back. Do the best you can. If you lose the arch in the lower back, that's perfectly normal. Most of us will. We'll build it again deeper in the position. Hold the back of that right thigh with the 2 hands. Interlace the fingers behind it. So the left arm threads through the gap between the legs and you find the other hand behind that right leg. Okay. Lift the right shin horizontal. Now the 2 shins are horizontal. The 2 feet, imagine they're on a wall. The 2 feet grip the wall, toes grip the wall. Without moving either foot, pull them downward. Press the bum down. Notice the arch in the lower back gets a little lighter. Now this is a big stretch in that left hip. Breathe into what you're meeting. Breathe into what you're meeting. If this is too much, you can use a belt to hold the back of the leg. Another way of doing it. Or a towel or... Now, if you feel you can sustain the arch in the lower back, that's the foundation. You don't sacrifice the foundation to go deeper. If you can maintain that, maybe you get to bring the leg you're holding closer. But if the lower back flattens, you don't bring it closer. If all of that's working and it's grand, without changing your position, your left forearm, that's against your left thigh, you press that into your thigh. So you're pressing the left thigh away as the right leg comes in. Maintain the arch in the back. You're actively pressing the bum down as before. Now breathe into the sides of the ribs. Shrug the shoulders. It'll see, can you let them relax even though the arms are working? You're not hiking them up. Soften your face. Open the front of your throat. Even press the back of the head into the floor again for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Okay, let it all go. Once the 2 feet come onto the floor, see, can you just let the hands relax on the belly? Relax then. Just breathe. Notice the breath. Notice the feelings in your body. Okay. Right ankle over left thigh. Breathe. Okay, foot on the floor, toes grip the earth, you pull the foot towards you. You can feel the whole leg begins to engage, balanced action. So we're creating symmetry all the way from the toes gripping right up through the leg into the hip. That's then moving into the spine. It's all connected. Bum presses down, arch in the lower back's there. We try to keep it as we bring the left thigh in. We hold the back of the thigh. Now again, you've probably lost the arch. That's absolutely perfect. We'll work it out. Left shin horizontal, 2 feet on the imaginary wall. Pull the feet down the wall without moving anything. Press the bum down. Big stretch. Breathe into the tightness. Imagine you're breathing into the tightness. A little shrug in the shoulders, so you relax the shoulders. Take your time, just breathe with this. Front of the throat open for 5. Press the back of the head down for 4. Relax the jaw for 3. For 2. 1. Nice work. Nice work. Let it go. 2 feet on the floor. Rest the hands. Close the eyes. Okay, 2 legs together. Let's cross left leg all the way over the right leg. This time thigh over thigh, all the way over. Now, the foot on the floor, you've got your right foot on the floor. Bring your right foot a little to the left. Scoot your bum a little to the left. Drop your hips, your legs, over to the right. Okay, now again, what are you meeting? Is it tension? Is there tightness? Is there discomfort? Breathe into it. If it's too much, you got to work that out. You can put a brick or a cushion underneath that left knee so the leg has something to relax into. You can decide how much support you want to use. So again, we're always looking for a balance between effort and non-effort. This is the whole gambit or the whole game of life. If it's too much effort, like that river analogy, the banks of the river are too close. We get too rigid. We're not designed to do that. We get ill, we get worn out, we get stressed. If there's no effort, when we're doing a practice like this, it's like the banks of the river go and the energy dissipates. There's nothing to hold it, to channel it. And what we're doing is we're creating new channels here. So we're creating healthy boundaries. That's what our practice is. It's a healthy boundary. Wherever you notice the tension, breathe into that space. Okay, very simple. Left leg stretches out toward the right, wherever it goes to. I want you to take it, let's say 70% of how far it can go. So there's no sense of forcing in any way or stretching. It's easy to be here. Okay, left hand onto the right butt. Left hand to the bottom cheek, yeah? Not the left butt, but the bottom cheek. Now, your fingers are at the base of your bum. Stick your butt back, stick it back, press it back into the hand a little. Same thing we were working with through all those other poses. And you'll notice the arch in the lower back engaging. Sustain that, stretch the left leg further. Stretch it further. So let's say your left leg is horizontal or a little higher. Keep it there. I want you to lift your left leg halfway toward the ceiling and then bring it down to where it was and lift it up. And bring it down and up and down. Isn't this fun? For 3, for 2, one more, and then down. Great, and then release. Come all the way back. When you get back, just close the eyes and pause. Notice the breath. Okay. Cross the right leg on top, right over left. Move the foot on the floor over to the right, move the hips to the right, drop the legs, knees over toward the left. If you want to use a support, feel free to do that. We don't go anywhere else initially, we just breathe, we meet what's here. Inhaling and exhaling. Okay, slide the right leg out toward the left. Right hand on the left butt. You try to press the base of the buttocks. So it's right at the top of the hamstring, base of the glute. That's the part you're actually trying to press back to move the hips in a way that's balanced. So again, that's like we scoop the flesh of the buttocks, all those other repositionings we did, tilts the sacrum, begins the arching in the lower back in a way that's balanced. Sustain that as you slide the right foot further. Breathe into what you're meeting. Lift the right leg halfway upward, bring it down and up and down and up and down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then come all the way back. Beautiful. Okay. This time, soles of the feet together, 2 knees go wide. You let the 2 knees drop out to the side. If it's easy to be here, fantastic, great. Relax, notice the breath. If it catches or it's sore, you can support the thighs. You can put, again, a cushion, a brick, something underneath them so the legs have something solid to rest on. And if none of that's working, just stretch the 2 legs out. 2 hands to the lower belly. Close the eyes. Come to your breath. And again, can we move to those comfortably deeper breaths we were doing at the beginning of our practice? Slide one leg out, slide the other leg out, keeping the feet wider than the hips, and then let's release the arms. Kind of the arms are about a 45-degree angle from the body. Turn the palms to face upward. Take a few deeper breaths. Lift and just gently shrug one shoulder upward toward the ear and then the other shoulder, just to create a little bit of length in the sides of the ribs and the torso. And then let everything begin to relax. The idea of letting your body just sink down into the floor and then just come back to your natural breath. Let everything melt. You become aware of any tension in the body. The intention is to dissolve it. That now you've done the work and you invite the floor to hold you. The floor is here to support you now. And then begin to take some deeper breaths. Letting your fingers and toes just begin to move. Just feel those places. And stretch in whatever way you wish to, whatever way your body wants you to move in. And we're going to bend the knees one at a time and roll over to the side. And get comfortable here. Use the head or the hand or the arm as a pillow. Get comfortable. And as you get comfortable, come back to your breath. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchitananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchitananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Take your time, come back to sitting. When you get there, close the eyes. Let the attention come again to your breath. Let your belly soften. So again, our practice is a way in which we create a boundary that supports freedom. And the unconscious boundaries that many of us carry, connected to the sympathetic nervous system, the protective nervous system, when that's dominant, it has such a ripple effect through our lives. It becomes the filter that we take in the world. So when we're hearing about things that are difficult in the world, and we're seeing it through the filter of the sympathetic nervous system, what will happen within us is an amplification of fear and anxiety. Because the sympathetic nervous system is telling us the world is not a safe place, and then every time that information comes back to us, it amplifies its solidity. It creates a stronger holding grip on us. But the work we do moves us toward the parasympathetic, the filter that is able to take in this information that the world is challenging and difficult and acknowledge that that is the truth, but it's not the whole truth. It's just a part of the experience. That another aspect of our lives is this capacity for freedom, for joy, for love, for compassion. That's all part of life too. We know that, although it's not always so easy for us to tune into it or experience it. The practice is the boundary. It's the structure that allows us to begin to move in the direction of the part of us that can tap into that frequency, that can access it and feel it and know it as real. The more we do it, the stronger that structure becomes. The stronger that muscle in us becomes, the one that can know this deeper truth of our own worthiness, of the worthiness of the world, the goodness that is in there, and really begin to then live in a way that promotes that for ourselves, but for the world around us. This is the path of the yogi. We turn in order to come out. Bring the hands together in front of your heart. May our practice bring us to this space of the heart. May we remember this space. And I encourage you throughout your day to take moments and just bring your attention to the space of the heart and feel what's here. And at times you may feel fear, but if you stay with it, you'll drop beyond, deeper than the fear. And it's the recognition, the remembrance of that deeper place that alleviates the fear, that clears it. May our practice bring us to this space. And then to ourselves and to each other, we bow. Namaste. Good work, well done. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you have a moment, maybe subscribe to my channel. That would really help. Also, we have a month of meditations beginning tomorrow morning, Monday the 2nd of November. And that's running for the whole month. And you can check out testimonials on my website, michaelryan.com. It's a great way of beginning to build these structures, this daily practice, just to begin to, again, create those boundaries that support us. And it's all about supporting us in accessing what's already there. In a sense, it's not learning something new. It's about just tapping into what's there. So I hope you have a good day. I wish you the very best, and I'll see you soon.